why do you ferment with grains? We already talked about that because the phytic acid makes it so the nutrients aren't available. We have to soak, sprout, ferment something. This is a fermentation process happening right here. Where do you get this? This is the magic, is this starter right here. Well, you all have some in your bag right now, and it's very active, very happy starter, as evidenced by hers that went crazy when it was under the heat. So this is a natural yeast starter that's made. Where do you get it from? Yeasts are everywhere, but they're particularly on grains. So a lot of times you can make a starter off of just your own grain, off of grapes have a lot of yeasts on them, pineapples have some yeasts on them, some fruits have some yeasts on them, or you just get one from a friend. That's the easiest because it's already an established starter. How are you going to activate it? So you're going to take your little cup of it you have, and it says right on here, actually it doesn't say on here, so I'm going to tell you. You're going to add a cup of flour and a cup of water to that starter. That's going to activate your starter. Now it's so active and so readily, it's been used frequently that that's all you're going to have to do. If you want to reactivate a starter, if you think that you've killed it and it's been sitting in your fridge for a really long time, pull just a little bit out, add equal flour and water, let it sit for a couple days, add some more flour and water. You'll see that it gets back healthy again, gets back happy again.
Pour the liquid off.
Pour the liquid off the top because it's actually alcohol. It's a fermentation product called alcohol. So yeah, if there's a liquid layer on the top of the starter, you're going to want to pour that off before you get the starter out. We need to talk about, we get to that in just, no we don't.
You know what I do for fast rice? To fast start is I just put it in a pan with pretty hot water actually in my windowsill with the sun shining in, and I can have it ready in 2 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, and it works great.
So it will go fast.
I mean, I was told, well, you have to do it a day ahead, and then you have to do it twice the day you're going to do it, and all that stuff. No, that's all I do.
Just stick it in that warm window. Yep. And it will move pretty quickly, especially if you keep it pretty active. I do want to tell you something about feeding the starter that I didn't understand for a while. So let's do this. All right, I didn't use all this starter. So what am I going to do with this? I like to think of starter like a whole bunch of teenage boys. And if you have all of the teenage boys still in the jar and you put some food in here, each teenage boy isn't going to get very much food and they're not going to be as happy. But if you pour out most of the teenage boys and use them for something else and keep just a few teenage boys in here and then feed them, the ones that are left are going to be really happy. That makes sense? So the fewer the yeast you have in this bottle when you refeed your starter, the better your starter is going to be. Completely counterintuitive. You think, oh, I want to leave as much as I can. No, you want to leave as little as you can. I mean, you leave that much. You can see, just like coats my bottle. So that's what my starter is going to be like when I feed it now. Might take a little bit more. That's pretty good. That's what my starter is going to be like when I feed it. I don't want very much starter left in there to feed because then each yeast doesn't get very much food. So I want very few yeasts so they all get a lot of food. This is my favorite cup because it bends so I can dump it in. So this is how I feed my starter. It's really, really scientific and really, 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 really measured. And then I dump some water in. It's super scientific again. Stir it up a little bit. This is going to have our leftover bread dough on here a little bit, but it's all the same stuff, so it doesn't really matter. Stir it up. You want it to look like pancake batter. Everybody's usually made pancakes. They know what that looks like.
By the way, sourdough pancakes are awesome.
That's what this is.
And waffles. Yeah.
Yep, that's now what this is. So what I do with my starter, while I'm mixing this up, what I do with this starter, so when I'm going to remake my starter, I pour off all the excess. And then this is magic. That most of the time will turn into pancakes or waffles the next morning. So what I'll do is I'll add flour to this as well because of bulk. I just need more. I have too many hungry mouths, so I'll add some flour to that, I'll add some water to that, and I'll mix that up. That sits on my counter overnight. That's what this little fun stocking cap is, because sometimes these get so excited they want to explode out of the container. So this stays in the counter overnight. I will mix it, obviously. And then in the morning, I'll add some oil an egg and salt, and that's pancake mix, and it's all done. So I pretty much have a rule that I never eat what I call raw flour. I never eat flour that hasn't sat as a ferment. So I will use this starter for everything. If I'm going to make a quick bread, like if I'm going to make a zucchini bread or a banana bread, something like that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix it up the night before and then cover it and let it sit overnight, and then I'll bake it in the morning. If I'm going to make, let's say a chicken pot pie, I'm going to just use starter. I'm going to add some butter, an egg, some salt, and just dump it over my pot pie, and it'll cook into the most delicious crust you've ever had in your life. Yeah, I do the same thing with a cobbler. I just put fruit in the bottom of a pan. You mix your starter with some butter, maybe some coconut milk, an egg poured over the fruit, and now you've got the most delicious cobbler you've ever had. I'm working on a recipe book of just those recipes because I kind of make them up every day. So, oh, that's good too. So there's so many ways to use the starter. Like I said, I never use raw flour. So I just think, what can I use this for? So now this is my thickener for gravy. I just put it in like you'd make gravy regularly and just thicken it up. It is great. It's a thickener for soup. Whatever you would typically use a flour in, I just use it in that format. And if you think about it, it's about half and half water to flour. So let's say you're going to use this as a base, or this is the flour for your cake. You think, okay, if I have 2 cups of starter, that's really probably a cup of flour and a cup of water. Does that make sense? It's about half and half. So when I look at my recipe, I say, okay, I need 2 cups of flour. That means I'm going to need 4 cups of starter, because this is probably 2 cups of flour and 2 cups of water here. So you just have to convert and think, how does that convert? So this is maybe just a tad bit thick, but I just want you to see what it looks like. So then I'll add raw flour to it, but then I'm going to let that cake sit overnight, cook it tomorrow. So that's how you do it.
So like cookies, where you're not adding any liquid per se.
You're going to have to let it sit overnight. You're just going to let that dough sit in the fridge overnight. So mix up your fridge, mix up your batter, put some starter in, because that's going to be the fermentation piece. Put some starter in, it's just part of your flour and water, and then do the rest as flour. Mix up that dough, put it in the fridge overnight, cook your cookies tomorrow. I wanted you to see a starter. So that's about don't look at the spoon. The stuff coming off the spoon, so you can see the thickness of it. That's about the thickness of it. That's what you want it to be for the starter.
I use it for tempura too.
Tempura, and, anything you would use a flour for.
Like breading chicken.
Awesome, awesome ideas. So just think, what would I use flour for? And use it for that. And what it's going to do is it's going to increase the nutrient value of everything you made. And it's going to make it feel better when you eat it.